second part of our 5-part series on the stages of grief. Today we are talking about the probably most difficult but most important stage, which is anger. Again, different scenery because the material that we're covering is pretty heavy. So I didn't want to be, normally where I am in the house, just sitting there in the chair. I wanted to be outside to kind of give you some lift to what we're talking about. Anger. After you have gotten over the initial shock and walked through the door of denial, that brings us to this stage, which is a tough one. And it often starts, again, with a word. Why? Talk about a loaded question when it comes to death, grief, and loss. There are so many whys, and the compound injury of this word feeds a lot into the matrix of this stage. You wonder, often the most popular question, of course, is why did they die? Some people phrase it around, why did God take them? Why didn't I stop them? Why didn't I get to say goodbye? Why did they? It just goes on and on and on and on. And depending on what those answers are to you, determine the level of anger that you have. Confusing? Doesn't even begin to describe the things that you feel and just all the emotions that are going on in your body. You're still, just because you walk through that first door, you'll tend to tiptoe back in there quite often, the denial, and then the anger behind realizing, no, this really happened. And again, the circumstances of their death can fuel your anger to different levels. But remember, this has to happen, okay? This is part of a healthy grieving process. Which brings us to the second point that, try to figure out why your camera keeps falling over. While you're still struggling with the why, it now moves into, but this doesn't make sense. None of it is going to make sense. And that further infuriates you. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. We had plans. This doesn't make sense. We're having a baby. This doesn't make sense. We were supposed to get married. This doesn't make sense. We're on vacation. This doesn't make sense. But they were so young. This doesn't make sense. But they were healthy. It just goes on and on. But they believed in God. The list goes on and on and on. Loss of autonomy, loss of control is something as humans we will never understand. This is out of our hands. There is nothing we can do. Even in times of death where we feel we have control, there's still nothing we can do. We're not in control. For instance, if in my case, with Sydney, it came down to the choice of pulling the plug. And I have seen and heard and are very familiar with situations where the plug was pulled and people continue to live. And I mean to the point of living to full recovery. So we just don't, we are not in control. We are not in control. And so life doesn't make sense. So please don't expect death to make sense, nor the process of us dealing with the death of a loved one to make sense. It's not going to make sense. And the sooner we realize that, the better off we'll be. At times, there may be those rare instances where we can find some clarity in the loss. But in general, it's just not going to make sense. And the thing about anger is, and you'll find this in any stage of grief, but especially anger, you have to let your emotions flow. Be angry. What does being angry look like? You can scream. You can be standoffish. If you internalize your anger and choose not to let it out for fear of seeming weak, or if you're not an emotional person and you feel like these feelings, you don't like letting them out, you can't stop them. They have to happen. Again, your body is a physical being, and the mind, number one priority is self-preservation. And internalizing your anger will come out in one way or another. It's going to come out. It's going to come out in acne. It's going to come out in alopecia. It's going to come out in high blood pressure. It's going to come out in sleep. It's going to come out in digestion. You will lose your appetite. It will come out. So just let it out. Let it happen. Don't be concerned about the responses of those around you. Now, scripture we use, be angry and sin not. Now, when you're angry, don't go around just like getting a baseball bat and breaking out windows, banging up people's cars. While that might feel good, hey, there are rooms for that. There are places you can go now legally and pay to like break windows. You can pay to like beat up a car to let all that aggression out. I'm sure there are some contractors. You have some friends who are contractors. Ask them if they need help on demo day. Why do you think that those people on those home improvement channels are so happy and chipper? Because they get to break stuff up and let out all their aggression. And that's really what's happening. It's the body's way of releasing its emotions. So in your anger, be careful. Let's not take that out on the people who love us. And you may say some things, you know, your words may come out harshly. You may have some sharp responses, and that's okay. People who love you understand that. Why? Because they've lost someone too. And we should know how to support those who are going through. We need to know how to empathize. So to those who are touched more by the grief of someone, you're okay to have those feelings. And to those of us who are on the outskirts and in support, understand what they're going through. Which brings me to the last point. Everything you're feeling, everything that's happening to you, not only is it okay, but you're okay. You're not crazy. You're not. There's nothing wrong with you. What's wrong with me? You're grieving. That's what's wrong with you. Your body is processing the loss of this person. Your body is preparing itself for the new normal, self-preservation. You have to now survive without this person, and that's completely new. And your body has to figure out, your mind has to figure out, how are we going to do that? And it's weird, and it's painful, and it's new. Think about any change, any metamorphosis, it looks painful. Think about a caterpillar and a butterfly. Think about a human body. We're trying to lose weight. If we're going to the gym, we're working out. You don't think any of that's painful? Do a plank. But it brings you to a desired end. And the desired end, once we get through these stages, is your new normal. No, you're not over it. You're experienced. Now you have a feather in your cap. It's not one of pride that you walk around with, but listen, one day or another, you're going to deal with the loss of someone very close to you. And knowing how to handle it, because it will happen again, can make such a difference in your life. So please walk away from this knowing, one, you're not crazy. Two, that it's okay and that you're okay. We have 3 more doors. We're going to get through this. You're doing great. Remember, just keep going. See you next week.